We continue now at the top of Daf Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Aleph and Mesechet Yevamos. This is Yevamos Daf 111a. Rav Chisda now is arguing that Rav must hold in a situation where a man is married to two women, and one is a chareshes and one is a katana. So it must be that the chareshes there is a kinyan, but there's something left off of the kinyan, and by the katana it's like a suffix. We don't know if there's a full kinyan or if there's no kinyan at all. And the Gemara says, Rav Chisda reasons, because if you're going to say the opposite, let's say you're going to say that when it comes to the chareshes, so over there it's a suffix whether there's a full kinyan or there's no kinyan at all. But if that were the case, then Rav should have said Teisiv Gabe Mimanavshach, that she's allowed to stay with him Mimanavshach. In other words, let's say the husband dies and now they both fall to Yibam. So we were trying to come up with a solution. What exactly is supposed to happen over here? Because again, it was a situation where one wife does not pater the other wife because they're different levels of marriage. And so Rav had suggested that what you do is as follows. Rav said that he marries, the Yavam marries the Chareshes and immediately divorces her. And then what he does is he waits until the katana grows up and he does chalitza with the katana. But if it was true that the Chareshes was a suffix, if she was even married to the first husband in the first place, so then she could actually stay with him. He wouldn't have to divorce her. She could stay with him imanavshach. Iknuyahi, if she really was acquired, haknuyahi, so then she really was acquired and this is a real genuine marriage. Vilav knuyahi, if she really was not acquired, if that first marriage was nothing, so hanachras bialmi, so she's a stranger, she was never married anyways, and so there's no problem over here. Just because you do chalitza, let's say with the katana, that's not going to affect her because they're not really co-wives. And the Gemara continues, and if you're going to say, if we're going to say over here that the katana is a suffix, which is what Rav Chisda is arguing that Rav holds, so why should the katana wait until she becomes an adult and does chalitza? She also has the same argument. Teisiv gabe, let her be with him, let her marry him. And again, if she was acquired, so she was acquired. And ilav knuya, if she was not acquired, so nechresa bialmi. So again, she's just a stranger. There's no problem. So you can make the same argument by the katana, but the Gemara says no, because if you would have done that, if you would have said that the katana is allowed to be married to the yavam because of this argument that it's all just a suffix, but then imkain, but if so, chareshes b'matepuk. What are you going to do with the chareshes? How do you allow the chareshes out of this situation? And the reasoning over here is that a chareshes, again, as we've said before, chalitza is not possible by a deaf mute because she's not able to recite the proper psukim, and so therefore she would be in a situation where it would be impossible. And we'll continue over here with the Rashi from the previous Amud. Rashi was arguing, why can't it be that they are both suffix situations? That can't be either, because then Teisiv Gabe Mimanavshach. Then you have a situation, if they were both suffix, then there'd be no problem at all. Everyone can remain married Mimanavshach. To Achrona lo pasla, because the later one, Rashi is referring to a case where he has Bia with one and then Bia with the other one, so that later act of relations won't create a disqualification. Dimshtein Kenuyos, because again, if they are both really acquired at the same level, so Eino Achrona poselis rishona, then the bia with the later one doesn't mess up the earlier one. Dein achar bia klum, because we've already argued if there's bia achar bia, that doesn't work. Once there's one bia, the other one has makes no chalos. It doesn't create any effect. Vimzu knuya v'zu eina knuya. Now let's say one is acquired and one's not acquired. So einan tzaras zulazu. They're not really co-wives. Elachada knuya mushuyeres v'chada safik. So rather it has to be. That's what Rashi's saying. It must be for sure that one of them is a kinyan that's mishuyeres, where there's something remaining off the kinyan, and one is a suffix. And now the whole point of the Gemara is to figure out which woman is actually knuya mishuyeres and which one is a suffix. And that's what Rav Chisda is saying. Rav Shamin, and from Rav's psak, in other words, Rav said that what he should do is he should marry, the Yavam should marry the Chareshes and divorce her immediately, and then wait for the Katana to become an adult, and then do the Chalitza with her. So from that you see, the Chareshes, hi haknuya v'mishuyeres, that it's the Chareshes who is knuya mishuyeres, or Katana suffix, and it's the Katana that's the suffix, whether there's a kinyan at all. And Mishum hachi teitze hachareshes beget, that's why the Chareshes has to be divorced with a get. Why? Because Dilma Katana knuya hilagamri, because maybe the Katana is really a full kinyan. Viadiva mechareshes, and therefore her marriage is really preferred over the marriage of the Chareshes, is a stronger marriage. Upaslala chalitza saleh, and therefore if you're going to do chalitza with her, you're going to have a situation of lo yivna that's going to disqualify the Chareshes, so she needs to be divorced immediately. And Rashi continues, Haknuya here cannot be that the situation of the Chareshes is a suffix, because again, if she really was acquired, then she's the one that's acquired. Vesu leka zeka basra, and then there's not going to be any zeka that comes after her. And Nachris Bialmin, if she wasn't acquired, then there's no issue anyway, because she's a Nachris. Velo pasla chalitzas katana, and the chalitza the katana won't disqualify her, because they're not actually co-wives. So that's why it can't be a situation that the Chareshes is a suffix, because then again, as we said, she would be allowed to remain married to the Yavam Mimanavshach. Either way. Either she's the one that's actually Kanuya, so it's no problem, or she's a Nachras Bialma, and therefore it's not going to be a problem either. And the Gemara then continued, Ketana my tamtin v'tachlutz. So the Gemara said, well, if that's the case, so by the Ketana, why is it that she waits until she becomes an adult and does Chalitza? She also would seem to have the same Mimon of Shach, if it's a situation where it's a suffix. Yiso'ena mitchila, what he should do is marry her right away, v'teishav etzla Mimon of Shach, and then she's going to be allowed to stay by him Mimon of Shach. But the Gemara said to that, no, that wouldn't work, because Chareshes b'may tepak, that would be a very nice solution for the Katana, but what are you going to do with the Chareshes? How is she going to go free? Halav bas chalitzi, because if he's marrying now the Katana because of this Mimon of Shach argument, but there's no Chalitza that is possible by the Chareshes. Rav takanta letarvayo katani, and again, Rav was trying to do a solution for both of them. And Rashi continues and points out, Vi kasha masnisin de katani, maybe you'll ask from the Mishnah, which says, Ba'al Katana v'chazru Ba'al Chareshes. It says, let's say Yasbia with the Katana, and then with the Chareshes, Pasal es Katana, it says that disqualifies the Katana. But Amai Pasla, why should that disqualify her? Hoel v'nosva b'reisha, since he married her first, and again, she's a situation of a suffix, whether she was acquired or not. So Tepa Chareshes beget, a very simple solution. Simply divorce the Chareshes with a get. O Katana, Tesav Gabe Mimon of Shach Kedamran, and then the Katana will remain married to Mimon of Shach. In other words, if the Katana was acquired in the first place, then then the marriage to the Katana was good. And if the Katana was not, so then they're not co-wives at all. And so then he simply divorces the Chareshes and stays married to the Katana. Vika Takanta Letarvayo, then you also have a Takana for both the Katana and the Chareshes. In other words, why do we have to suggest the solution where what he does is marry the Chareshes, divorce her immediately, and then by the Katana wait till she gets older and do Chalitza? There's another solution. Let him be with the Katana, and then if he's with the Chareshes, that's not going to do any disqualification at all. Instead, what you can simply do is divorce the Chareshes, and the Katana can remain married Mimon of Shach. So Taretz Masnisun Mishum Gezerah, you can answer that and say that the reason why our Mishnah does not allow that as a possibility is because already a Gezerah, there's a decree, Dil Ma'asi Lemival Chareshes Bereisha. Maybe he'll get confused and he'll end up having the relations with the Chareshes first, which would actually mess up that entire argument. This is an answer that we're going to give in the Brisa later on. And the Gemara continues, Amar Rav Sheishes says, Hachinami mistabra kedekamaretz Rav Chisda. It makes sense what Rav Chisda is saying, Aliba de Rav, meaning it makes sense what Rav Chisda is saying, that the marriage to the Chareshes is a kinyan that's mishuyeres, that is lacking something, but the marriage to the Katana is considered a suffix situation, whether it is a marriage or whether it is not a marriage. Titania, because we learned in the following Brisa, Shnei achin nesuin shtei achayos. Let's say you have a situation of two brothers that are married to two sisters, Yevamos, and these sisters are both orphans, Katana v'Chareshes. And the situation is, one of the wives is a Katana, she's a minor, and the other one is a Chareshes, she's a deaf mute. So Meiz Bala Shal Katana, let's say you have a situation where the husband of the minor dies, and so now the minor is falling to Yibum. So the halach is, Chareshes Yotza Beget, the Chareshes, she's divorced with a get, O Katana Tamtin Acha Tagdil V'Tachlitz, and by the Katana, just wait until she becomes an adult, and then he does Chalitza with the Katana. Meiz Bala Shal Chareshes, now on the other hand, let's say the husband of the Chareshes dies, and the Chareshes is the one that's falling to potential Yibum, so then Katana Yotza Beget, the Katana should be divorced with a get. The Chareshes Asura Liolam, but the Chareshes is going to be completely Asur. There's nothing you can do with the Chareshes. V'imbala Chareshes, now if he does have relations with the Chareshes, no sin la get v'hutra, he gives her a get, and then she becomes mutter. And Rashi over here explains, Kidakamitarates, again, it makes sense what Rav Chisda is saying, that Chareshes is Kanuyo Meshuyeres. Like we said, a Chareshes is considered Kanuyo Meshuyeres, and Katana Kanuya Ve'ena Kanuya. Katana is considered acquired and not acquired, meaning it's a suffix situation. And the Brisa said, Meiz Bala Shal Katana Chareshes Yotza Beget. If the husband of the Katana dies, so now again it's the Katana that's falling to a potential Yibum situation, so the Chareshes, she has to be divorced. The Zekas Katana Ketano Sarta Allah, because there's a bond now between him, the Yavam, and the Ketana, and that creates a prohibition in terms of the Chareshes. The Chareshes Knuya Umishuyeres, because the Chareshes is Knuya, but there's something remaining, there's something left off of the Kinyan. Uketana Shema Knuya Lagamri, but maybe the Ketana is an even greater acquisition. V'havala Chareshes Achos Zekukaso, and therefore the Chareshes becomes the sister of this woman who now has a bond of Yivam, and therefore she has to be divorced. And Ketana Teitze Beget, and the Ketana, she should be divorced. The Zekas Chareshes Achoso Sartat. Go the other way as well, that the bond that happens, let's say it's the Chareshes that's falling to a potential Yivam situation, so then that can answer the Ketana. Shema Ketana ain't a Knuya Klal, because maybe the Ketana is not acquired at all, and Rashi explains, Vahave Kimefuta would be the same status as a girl who was a Mefuta who was seduced. The Chareshes Knuya Meshuyeres, and now the Chareshes, there is a Kinyan over there, there's just something that is left off of the Kinyan. Vahave lo Ishto Achos Zekukaso, and therefore in that case, where it is the Chareshes who's falling to Yibam, so the Ketana then is going to be the sister of this woman that he has this bond with, and the sister therefore is going to be prohibited, again, even if it's a situation of Kimefuta in a Knuya Klal, but there's still going to be a prohibition, because in this case they are sisters. The Chareshes Asura Liolam, and then it said that the Chareshes, she's going to be forbidden forever. Why is she forbidden forever? So it's forbidden Lakonsa, he can't do Yibam, Lakonsa Efshar Shema Ketana Knuyi. Again, there's no possibility of Yibam with the Chareshes, because maybe the Ketana is really the one that's fully acquired. V'zu achos gerushaso, and so therefore you have a situation where this is now the sister of his grusha, ve'in zakukalo, and therefore there is no bond over here, and there's no chiv of yibam. Ve'afilu meisa Ketana achakach. Now, even if the Ketana would die, upaka isra achos isha, and there would be no issue of marrying sisters anymore, asura mishum eishes ach, there would still be a problem over here because of the prohibition of marrying the wife of one's brother. Ho'elu v'shas nefila nifter imenu, because at the time of the nefila liyavam, there was a problem over here, there was a ptur. Over chalitza iyafshan, and as we've said already before, chalitza is impossible by the chareshes, the lav bas chalitza, because the chareshes can't do chalitza. And Rashi continues, V'imavru bala chareshes. Then it said, let's say the person transgresses and he has relations with the chareshes when he shouldn't have. Achar shegiresh hakatana. After he divorced the katana, he had relations with the chareshes. Nozin laget v'hutra l'shuk. In that case, he can actually give a get to the chareshes and should be permitted to marry. Mimonavshach, and that's mimonavshach. Ikatana kanuya, because if the katana was the one that was acquired, hava nafka lahach mereisha misham achosisha. So then this other one was completely pater anyway, because she's the sister of his wife. V'ach kanisas nus bialmi, the whole marriage was just a nus. V'katana lav kanuyi, and if the katana was not really acquired, shaper yibim, so the yibim was fine, and then you can do a divorce, and then it's not going to be a problem. And so the Gemara now continues and explains, Yamid Bishlam, if you'll say correctly, like Rav Chisda said, Chareshes Kanuya Umishuyeres, that by the Chareshes there's a kinyan, but it's not a full kinyan. And Ketana, Kanuya Vena Kanuya, and by the Ketana it's a suffix if there's a full kinyan or if there's no kinyan at all. So therefore, Mishamachi Dechibala, Chareshes Nosin Laget V'Hutra. Then we understand, like Rashi just explained, if he has relations with the Chareshes, he can give her a get, and she's totally permitted. The Amr Mimanavshach, because we can say this Mimanavshach argument. Ikatana Knuya, that if the katana was really the one that was acquired, hanafka misham achosisha, so then there was no problem over here at all anyway, because it's a problem of achosisha. Since it's achosisha, there is no yibam, and so if there's no yibam, there's no problem. And he lav knuya, and let's say the katana was not knuya, so shaper miyavim, so then the bia that he had with the chareshes is a good yibam, and again, then he can give her a get, and she's going to be permitted. Eloi amr chareshes knuya ve'ena knuya, but if you're going to say the other way around, that it's the chareshes who it's a suffix whether she's acquired or not, and katana kanuyu mishuyeres, and by the katana there is for sure a kinyan, it's just not a full kinyan. So then kibal chareshes amay nos and get v'hutra, if he does have relations with the chareshes, in a case again where she is the widow and he's doing yibam with the chareshes, why is he able to just give her a get and that permits her? Havale bia psula, because that's really going to be a situation of a bia that is a disqualified bia in that case, and if that's the case, so bia psula lo patra, the general rule is that by bia psula it does not create a ptur. And Rashi over here explains, Amai nosin laget v'hutra. Again, if you're going to say it's the other way around, and the suffix is the chareshes, so how is he able to give a get to the chareshes and permit her? Because if the chareshes is the suffix, there's a possibility that she really was fully acquired to the brother, and therefore there's a real bond of yibum between the chareshes and the yavam. Uketana, and therefore the katana lo dachila, that's not going to push her off. The fact that this yavam is married to the katana, or was married to the katana, katana isn't going to push off the chiyuv of yibum to knuya mushuyeresi, because that kinyan wasn't a full kinyan. Ubiyasa bi psula. Now, if that's the case, the relations that he has with the chareshes, even after the divorce of the katana, is going to be considered an inferior bia. Sharei achos isha b'mixasi, because it's a situation where really it's the sister of his wife. In other words, you have a situation over here where he was married to the katana, and these are sisters. The katana and the chareshes are sisters, and therefore it's a bia psula. It's an inferior bia because you have a problem of achos isha. Ubia psula lo patra from yivam. Now the halacha is that if you have a bia psula, that does not pater from yivam. Utzricha get lebiyaso, and there would be a requirement that she needs a get for the act of relations, but she still needs chalitza. The chalitza lizei kaso. Still, there is a need for chalitza because there is a bond over here in this case. Like we're saying over here, it's a bia psula, and therefore it does not remove the need for chalitza. The chareshes la bas chalitza, and again, as we said, a chareshes you can't do chalitza with a chareshes, and so therefore in this case you really should be stuck, and therefore again it's a proof that it's actually the other way around. The case is that the chareshes there is a kinyan that there's a little left off of the kinyan, and it's the katana is a suffix whether there's a kinyan or no kinyan at all. And so the Gemara continues, it's not necessarily a proof to Rav Chisda, because because you can say, who is the author of this brisa? Reb Nechemya. Maybe this brisa is authored by Reb Nechemya. The Amar bia psula poteres mechalitza. Reb Nechemya happens to hold that even when you have a bia psula, even when you have an inferior kind of bia, like in this case, where you have a situation of partial achos isha, that's still enough to pater from chalitza. But the Gemara continues, if you're going to say that this brisa is actually Reb Nechemya, Ema Seifa, let's take a look at the end of this brisa. The end of the brisa says, Misha Yanosoi Shtei Yisomos, let's say a person is married to two orphans, Ketana v'chareshes, he's married to a Ketana and to a Chareshes, Umeis, and then he dies. So Bo Yavam ala Ketana, if the brother-in-law has relations with the Ketana, V'chazar Ubo ala Chareshes, and then he has relations with the Chareshes, O Sheba Ochiv ala Chareshes, so let's say his brother has relations with the Chareshes, Nezru Shtei and Olav. In that case, both of them will be forbidden to him. Keitzad takanasan, and how do you fix the situation? Chareshes yotzes beget, the chareshes can be divorced with a get. Uketana tamtanat shetagdil, the ketana should wait until she becomes an adult, betachlutz, and then she does chalitza. And so the Gemara says, if you're going to say correctly that the chareshes there is a kinyan, but it's not a full kinyan, and ketana knuya v'eina knuya, and the ketana it's a suffix whether there's a kinyan or not. V'rabbanon here in this whole brisa is the rabbanon. Then it makes sense. For that reason, we wait until the katana becomes an adult, and then she does a chalitza. The deal because we have a gezerah, maybe he'll make a mistake and he'll end up doing the relations, the act of relations with the chareshes first. Bia the katana bia psula, which would render the bia of the katana a bia psula, an inferior kind of bia. Eloyam Reb Nechemya, but if you're going to say that this price is Reb Nechemya, Ha'amar bia psula patra, but he happens told that bia psula paters her anyway. Elashmami no rabbanon ishmami no. So rather, the Gemara says you see clearly that this brisa is the rabbanon, and again, if this brisa is the rabbanon, so this brisa would also be a proof to the position of Rav Chisda. And Rashi over here says Yisomos, again, the end of the brisa talks about a case where a person is married to a woman that is a katana and also to a woman that is a chareshes, and it says they were yisomos, they were orphans, and Rashi notes mishum katana nokat. They don't really both have to be orphans. The katana has to be an orphan, because again, if she was married off by her father, that would be a deoraisa level marriage, but in terms of the chareshes, it doesn't have to be that she's a yisoma, and so then again, the husband dies, and both of them fall to yibum, so the halach is nesru shtei and olav, they both become prohibited to him. And Rashi over here says, Avagav de ketana midina lo mifsala alea mishum bia de chareshes. Rashi points out that really the katana, the girl that's a minor, is not usher to this man because of the fact that he had bia with the girl that was, with the woman that was a chareshes. Mimanavshach, and that's true mimanavshach. Like we said before, I katana kanuya, if the katana is a full acquisition, that was a full kinyan. So leka midi basar biasa. So after the act of relations with the katana, so the halach is ein achar bia klum. After that bia, there is nothing, and the bia that was with the bia that was with the chareshes has no halachic status, and therefore it doesn't passel the katana. V'ilav kanuyahi, and if we're going to say, again, it's a suffix by a katana, if we're going to say there's no acquisition at all, so nachas bialmi, so in that case, she's not really considered to be that she was married at all, she's just considered not really part of the yibam chalitza process over here, and it's no problem at all. But Rashi says, Afilu hachi asura. Nevertheless, the katana is asura. Why? This will be explained later on. Mishum gezeira, because of the following gezeira, the following decree. This was mentioned already previously. Dilmaasi lemevad ibcha, because we're afraid that what might end up happening is a person would do the reverse. And what might happen is ubal chareshes beresha. The person will go ahead and he'll have relations with the deaf mute, the girl that's a deaf mute first. Ubias katana paslala. Now, in that case, if he would then have bia with the katana afterwards, that actually would pasel the chareshes. The shema knuya hikula, because again, maybe the katana is a full kinyan, and the chareshes is the one that has a kinyan, but part of the kinyan is left off, and so therefore that full kinyan would actually go and disqualify the chareshes. But people will not realize the distinction just because you switch the order, and they're going to assume that the chareshes can stay with him. And therefore we say that no matter what the order is, we're going to say that the katana becomes disqualified. And so then the Brisa said, chareshes yotzi beget. So what happens is that the chareshes, he divorces her with a get, v'shar yomi manavshach, and then that's going to be permitted mimanavshach. Why? Because if the katana again really was a full acquisition, so then mifter chareshes bebiyasa the katana. So then once you have the bia of the katana, that actually patters the chareshes. V'ilav kanuyahi. Now, if the katana is not really considered acquired, so then patura bebia dida. So then her bia, meaning the bia of the chareshes, was a full one, and it was in real active yibum. And then all you're going to need is you're only going to need a get. You're not going to need a chalitza in this case. But katana tamtin, but the katana should wait until she becomes an adult, again, and then she should get a chalitza, kinemefarish time, like we've explained the reason, again, as Rashi pointed out, midina, really, the katana is permitted over here, if she was the one that the relations was done with first, but again, because of a gzeir that maybe the person's going to switch it around, so then we say that, again, she should wait and she should have chalitza as an adult. And so then the Gemara says, so now, if you're going to say correctly in the first part of the Brisa, by the case of the sisters, that was a situation where you had two brothers married to two sisters. Again, one is a katana and one is a chareshes. The katani, it says over there, in ba'al chareshes, if he does have relations with the chareshes, even though he wasn't supposed to, so the halach is nosin la get v'hutra. So he just gives her a get and then she's permitted. Mishum the chareshes knuya m'shuyeres, like we said, it's because the chareshes is acquired but not fully acquired. Katana knuya ve'ena knuya, and the katana is really a suffix whether she's acquired fully or not acquired at all. Mimanav shach, and so therefore mimanav shach chareshes basar gita miftera. The chareshes, once she gets a get, she's okay. Because on the one hand, it could be that this is really a situation of achosisha, and she was never chayiv in yibum whatsoever. She's not part of the yibum chalitza process. She was exempt from it because she's the sister of his wife. Or it could be that the yibum was completely beheter, because maybe the sister was never acquired, so it really was never a situation of achosisha whatsoever, and it was a perfectly good yibum. But let's say we say the reverse. Let's say we say katana kanuyahi u'mishuyeres, that the katana is acquired, but there's something lacking in the acquisition. The charesh is suffix, and then the chareshes is the one that is a suffix. So if that's the case, so sulo mifter chareshes beget. So then in that case, the chareshes, it's not going to be sufficient just to give the chareshes a get. Why? Because dil meknuyahi, because maybe she really is acquired as a suffix. She might be fully acquired. Velo navka misham achos isha, but she's not going to be exempt because of the situation of achos isha, shekinyan achos katana mishuyeres, because that kinyan with her sister, who's the minor, is not a full kinyan. And also the act of relations that she has is not going to be enough to be a psuli, because again that's an inferior kind of bia. Sharei achos ishtohi, because like we said, there is somewhat of a situation of achos ishtohi, because the sister that's a katana is somewhat acquired. Umasnisin rabbanani, and all of that would make sense if you say the Mishnah follows the position of the rabbanan. And therefore, the reason why in the seif at the end of the brisa it says by the situation of the nachris katana that chalitza is required. Again, that's a situation where the person is married to both of them. One person is married to both of them, and they are not sisters. Now, even though mimanav shach really, the bia was really beheter. V'gita get gomor, and the get is a real get. Mishum gezerah, but again, like we said, there's a gezerah. Dilma kadim ubal chareshes bereisha. Maybe he would do it the other order. Maybe first he would have relations with the chareshes. And people get confused and think again that both can go out with a get and be okay. And the katana that's last, it's not going to be sufficient with a get. Why? Because dilma Alma Kanuya, because in that situation, maybe she really is acquired. V'ramya Kameh, and she really should be standing before him for Yibum. Delo Iftara Bebias Chareshes, because in that case, she would not be exempt with the active relations of the Chareshes HaMishuyeres, because that she's not a fully acquired the Chareshes. Ubebia Didanami Lo Miftara, and again also with her own Bia, she's not going to be exempt. The Bia Psuli, because that's again an inferior kind of Bia, to Kamala Bisr Shnei Batim, because now you have a situation of you're not allowed to have two Batim, you're not allowed to do Yibum twice. And Rashi continues, but if you're going to say the other way around, that by a katana really there's a kinyan and the kinyan is not a full kinyan, the charesha suffix, and it's by the chareshes that there's a suffix kinyan, and according to that understanding, as we said that in the case of the sisters, let's say he has relations with the chareshes is a widow, so then it says he gives her a get and then she's mutter, shaminon de bia psula poteris, that would show that in the resha bia psula, an inferior bia still does pater, so then you're going to have to say Seifa bin Achra. So then what's going to be? So then in the case of the Seifa, when you're talking about them where they're not sisters, again, in the case where it was one man married to both of them, so Amai Katana boy Chalitza, so there we can't explain. You don't have a Gezerah to say that the Katana requires Chalitza in that case. Now I understand why she has to leave him. She can't stay married to him. Because then you'll say, Dilma Chareshes Achrona Knuya Kula, because maybe you'll say, maybe the Chareshes who was the last one, so maybe she really was fully acquired, and that creates a psul. Ela begita tizgila. But the point is that by the katana, get should be enough. To bias atzma potarta, because the relations that she had should be enough to be a ksheri. Because number one, that might be a kshera. Vinami chashav lapsula, and even if you're going to say no, that's considered to be a psula. Misham dekaima zekas chareshes, because there is a bond of the chareshes that exists, because we're assuming under this understanding that the chareshes is a suffix. So even if you're going to say there is a bond by the chareshes, and therefore this is an inferior bia, again, you could say the chareshes is fully acquired. But again, Rabbi Nechemia is the one that says that an inferior beer does in fact pater, and so therefore it wouldn't make sense if you're going to say according to this that it follows Rabbi Nechemia, then really the seifa is no longer going to make sense anymore, because again a bia psula should really be good according to Rabbi Nechemia. And the Gemara continues, Amar Ravashi says, May Reisha Nami, if you were only looking at the Reisha as well, from there also, Shmamina de Rabbanan, you see it's clear that the Reisha is the Rabbanan, it cannot be Reb Nechemia, who says that a Bia Psula is Paters, Tekatani, because what does it say over there? It says, Imbal Chareshes, let's say he has relations with the Chareshes, again, he's not supposed to be with the Chareshes, but let's say he does have relations with her, No sin la get v'hotra, it says he gives her a get, and that permits her. V'lo Katani, but it does not say the same thing by the katana. Let's say it's the katana that's the widow. It doesn't say in bala katana no sin laget v'hutra. It doesn't say that if he has relations with a katana, he gives her a get and that makes her mutter. And Rashi over here says, Mereisha nami gabe achayos, from the beginning of that brisa as well, meaning talking about the situation of the sisters. So also Shema Mina de Rabbanan, we see also from there that it's the Rabbanan, the Katani, because what does it say over there? Gabe meiz bala shel chareshes, when we're talking about the chareshes being the widow, it says in bala chareshes, so if the other brother has relations with the chareshes, no sin la get, it says he can give her a get and that's good enough. The gabe meiz bala shel katana, but by the one where the katana becomes the widow, the katana tamtin, it says she should wait and get chalitza when she's an adult. V'lo katani doesn't say the same thing by her. It doesn't say in bala katana no sin la get v'hutra. It doesn't say if he has relations with her, he gives her again and she's mutter. And so from that also alma rabbanan you see that really this is the rabbanan talking. Umisham hachi lo nafka beget, and that would explain why the katana can't just get a get to be yasa psula, because again the relations with her is an inferior bia. The chareshes kanuya b'mixas, because again the chareshes there is a little bit of a kinyan there. V'zu asura misham achosisha, so there's a problem here, a little bit of a problem of achosisha. Umiyivam lo midchi, but she's not totally pushed off from yibam either, because it's only a partial achosisha, because it's a partial kinyan. Dil makatana knuya kula, because maybe the katana really is fully acquired. The kinyan mishuyeres dachosa lo dachila, and therefore the small kinyan of her sister is not enough to push off, since she was fully acquired and the sister was only partial. It's not enough to push off the yibam. So again, you see just from that this is really the rabbanan, and you see that the bia psula, the inferior bia, is not enough to pater from chalitza. And so the Gemara responds, if that was the only proof you had, that wouldn't really be a proof, because maybe the reason why we're learning this by chareshes and not by katana is very simple. Chareshes de lesle takanta de heter, because by the chareshes, there's nothing that she can do really that's mutter. The case is really she's forbidden to this yavam, the chareshes, but if she has relations, so then it says she gets a get. Katani takanta de isur, since there's no takana of heter, so therefore we say the fix to do in a situation where she violated the prohibition, where she went ahead and she had relations and she shouldn't, so we say the solution of a get. But by katana, disla takanta de hetera, by the katana, there was a solution in any case. So therefore there's no reason to learn a case where the katana has relations when she shouldn't have had relations and that she gets the get. Lotani takanta disura. We don't teach this takana disura because again it's not necessary to teach it, even though it is true. The same takana might apply by katana as well, and so therefore it's no proof from the reisha. If you just isolated the reisha, it would not be a proof that the reisha is the rabbanon. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, Misha yanasoi l'shtei yisamos ketanos. Let's say a person is married to two orphans and they are both ketanos, they are both minors. V'meis, and he dies. Uba yavam al rishona, and then the brother-in-law comes and he has relations with the first one. V'chazer uba l'shni, and then he goes and he has relations with the second one. O sheba ochiv al shni, or let's say his brother has relations with the second one. And we will continue this discussion in the next video on Daf Kuf Yud Aleph Amud Beis.